Thank you for joining us on the Winning at Selling podcast. I'm Professor Scott Plum of the Minnesota Sales Institute, and with me is Bill Hellkamp of Reach Development Systems.
The selling profession is complex and challenging. The benefit is that each day is different. The challenge is we don't always know how to deal with the fresh set of issues. Sometimes we can get these questions answered by our coworkers or sales managers, but sometimes we have to bump it up to the pros. So listen for an answer to your question as Scott and I wrangle with questions from listeners and other great ideas on episode 490 of the Winning at Selling podcast.
I feel like this is kind of from one of my favorite radio shows, Play Stump the Chump. And we'll see what these guys come up with these situations. And I'm always grateful to hear from our listeners and how they would respond to some of these situations. So if you're thinking about giving us your 2 cents, I'll buy it. I'll send you 2 cents if you
we love to hear
something.
From them. Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll air it, and we'll do a follow-up session on this one, and we'll go from there. But as you know, for those of you that are playing along at home and listening to the podcast consistently, we had a plan to have a guest on our podcast, but had to reschedule. So we're sticking with no book club as we announced, but we will be having an interview with Mario McCracken next week. We do want to remind everybody about the book giveaway, Sales Jiu-Jitsu by Elliot Bayev and Daniel Moskowitz, 2 books each week. So go to winningatselling.com, fill out the form, give us a feedback, enter the drawing, ask a question, say hello, or just put your name in for the drawing. This week's winner, we have Ron Lehman.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning in and listening and being such a faithful, loyal supporter of the show.
Absolutely.
And Mitch Larson. So thanks for participating.
All right. Yeah, good.
This segment is brought to you by the Professional Sales Association Accelerate 2022 Half-Day Selling Workshop. Learn more at www.psamn.org.
Start the new year with Accelerate 2022, a great half-day selling seminar hosted by PSA, the Professional Sales Association. The keynote speakers are Daniel Moskowitz and Elliot Bayev, authors of the international bestseller, Sales Jiu-Jitsu, the Secret Black Belt System for Champion Leaders. They will be presenting 4 black belt strategies to double your conversion rate. Also presenting will be social media expert Jennifer Radke, who will present Expanded Social Media Equals More Customers. Accelerate 2022 will be held from 8 a.m. to noon on Friday, January 7th at the DoubleTree in Bloomington, Minnesota. Admission is $99 and includes breakfast. Also, the first 30 people to buy tickets will get a copy of the book Sales Jiu-Jitsu. So get your tickets now. Learn more at psamn.org. That's psamn.org. Well, as we alluded to in the opening, we've got some questions from our listeners. We did this about 3-4 months ago and got a really good response from people, and they sent more questions in. So hopefully we can do this more often, but send in your questions. Let us know what you sell, how you sell it, what your problem is, and we'll do some analyzing on the air. And we generally have reached out to these individuals already. We don't make them wait, 3 months for the things to pile up. And so we'll go through these questions. If I read the question, I'll give some of my ideas, and then Scott will chime in with his, and we'll go back and forth. So
sounds great.
So this first one is from Will in Miami. I've been in sales for about a year and am very frustrated. My biggest issue is finding new customers. Well, that's nothing new for us. I make 20 to 25 cold calls every day and am lucky if I reach 5 people. Out of that, I might get 1 appointment, but that is not enough to keep me going. Any ideas? I just told him no. I don't have any ideas.
Yeah.
Just too bad. So he's making 20 to 25 cold calls. He's only getting a hold of about 5. Is that pretty normal for you too, Scott?
I think that's pretty the norm. That's part of the norm. I mean, if you're making 25 attempts, you're probably, if you're lucky, you're getting 5, 6 maybe. Yeah, right in there.
I don't know how long it's taking him to make 20 to 25. But if he's only getting hold of 5 people, he's maybe leaving 20 other messages.
Sure.
That shouldn't take that long. Hopefully he's not spending all of his time researching to find the next person, that he's got a pretty well set up what he wants to say when he gets them on the phone and how he's going to approach it. So I think it's real important during that cold call time to have everything ready to go and have those 25 calls. One idea, you might have to go to 45 calls to try and reach to hit 10 people. And don't spend so much time in between each call, and it might take you a little longer. If you're only getting one appointment out of those 5, that means you're only getting 4 to 5 appointments a week. The balance is you need to move some of that time that you have over to making more calls until you have more appointments, and find that balance. The other thing I would say is you may have 20 people that want to get contacted in a different way. So you need to have emails. You need, if you can get cell phone numbers, if you can contact them on LinkedIn. Don't only try one way to get hold of people. Try a number of ways. Some people never answer their phone. Some people have cell phones, never pick up if they don't know the number, and they don't ever listen to their messages. So if you're getting mailboxes full, that person's not calling anybody back. It's not just you. So those are some things. Make more phone calls and try different ways to approach.
Yeah, if I could just add a couple of things in the.
I thought you might.
Yeah, cold calling. Of course, I've been thinking about what am I going to say the whole time. I haven't been listening at all.
You're just going to say the same things I said.
Probably, yeah. One thing is, I'm always curious where you're getting your lists. So, are you calling people that are really in a qualified universe? Number 2, what kind of offering are you making when you do make a call and a voicemail, or how are you getting to the person that ends up making the decision? And also number 3, what is the script like that you're using? If you're sounding like a salesperson, you're going to get shut down really quickly. And then lastly, I'm kind of curious, what kind of tone do you sound like when you're on the phone? If you're an ER and it's always going to be raining and the sky is falling, nobody wants to talk to you. That's just the way it is. So you need to be able to change your tone. So those are just some of my quick, bullet points on that particular topic.
Yeah, I think if he's getting one appointment out of 5, that's 20%. I'd be happy with one appointment out of 5 people that I reach. So I think he needs to just up the opportunities a little bit. But you're right. It's how you come across when you're on the phone. Are you reading a script to them? Do you sound like you're a machine? Those things can all play against you. I think you need to make sure that you're asking questions and not telling.
Right. And depending on the list, if it's a qualified list, I'd leave a message and I'd say, if I don't hear from you, I'm going to call you back in 2 days. Then follow through on that promise. And you're going to start building a reputation of following through on promises. And people are going to want to talk to you because it's like, I got to meet this guy. I just don't know why I want to talk to him, but I want to talk to him. And,
right.
And
because you're consistent. And you do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, you build trust. So I got one here from Kurt in Minneapolis.
Right here in our hometown.
Yeah. So grateful for a local listener.
Probably Kurt Svensson or Larson or Johnson.
Yes,
so we have a lot of in Minneapolis.
Yeah, exactly. He says, as we're coming out of the COVID issues, I have a problem getting live appointments. I've been selling via the web meetings for over a year. And while I'm doing okay, my sales are not nearly what they used to be when I was able to meet with clients in person and get to know them and see a tour of their facilities. How can I convince clients to meet with me? And this has really leveled the playing field, and it's also really opened up a lot more opportunities. So we don't necessarily always have to sell in our backyard. If we're talking via the internet, talking via the Zoom, we can, depending on our service, our product, we can sell, have a greater geographic territory that we sell to. But I think this is really identifying what is really important in a conversation, whether you're touring a facility, talking to person face-to-face, or if you're on the online Zoom calls. And the example that I used back in the day, back in March of 2020, is that when the COVID hit, we just saw the tide go out and we saw all the rocks that were exposed. And the rocks were always there. We just never had to deal with them because we were floating above them. And then all of a sudden, we need to start getting really good at our value proposition. We really need to get good at asking questions. We really need to get good at qualifying leads, uncovering motivation, interest, curiosity, create urgency. And that's all in the techniques of a salesperson. So we've got to really refine some of our skills during this time. And this is a great reminder of how important those skills are, whether you're communicating with a person on the internet or if you're talking face-to-face or in email too. We need to be able to be really proactive on our communication. That's what I would suggest. So really sharpen some of your basic sales skills, refine them, and I think you're going to be seeing a different impact, even though you are still working via the internet and the web. But what do you think?
Well, I think that I can understand what Kurt's saying, that I like to meet people face to face too, but I don't think that we have the ability to convince them in this climate to meet with us. We may be
Right.
able to talk to them about the benefits of meeting in person and how much more you'll be able to know about their organization. And you're selling that idea using those sales skills that you talked about. But if people are hesitant, if people are still afraid, if people don't want to meet a lot of people face to face, I don't think that you're going to be able to overcome that. And as Scott said, you just need to get better at selling to those people in a way that they want to be sold. Quit trying to make people fit into your mold and find ways to fit into their mold. So I don't think I would try to convince them. I might try to talk to them about the benefits if we can get together. But you do have a big benefit by selling with web meetings. And I can't tell you the amount of time I've saved not driving all over this city. And we're coming into winter now. We had a 14-inch snowstorm on Friday that killed our city for a couple of days. And now it's all melted. So we don't know what we're going to get. And if I don't have to drive all over the place, I can save myself a tremendous amount of time. And I found I've been able to do a lot more using web. When I do have that opportunity and I do find those joyful times where I get to go out and see my client again, then I take advantage of that. So meet the client where they are, not where you want them to be. And then, as Scott said, hone those tools to be more effective so that, and mostly I think it's all in the question asking. You can get a good vision of what their issues are, what their problems are without walking through it and taking a tour of the facilities if you have designed good challenging questions to drive the conversation. If you're just asking them how you doing, well, you're not going to get very far.
Right. Yeah, so true. Great advice, Bill.
All right, good. So my second one is from Alan in Bowling Green. I assume that's Bowling Green, Kentucky,
or Ohio. I don't know.
Bowling Green. It could be. I didn't write that down. All right.
Okay.
I sell test equipment to manufacturers and have been pretty successful. Recently, a new competitor has come into the market selling at a significantly lower cost. We bought some of their equipment and checked it out, and it definitely isn't the quality or accuracy of our product. Unfortunately, some of my customers are going in for the lower price equipment, and I'm losing sales. I don't want to badmouth the competition, but they would deserve it. How can I fight this lower price, lower quality competitor? All right. Wow, that's a great challenge that he's facing, and we certainly deal with that. I think what we have to know in the long run is that most of those people will come back when the equipment doesn't do what they say it's going to do, doesn't last, or isn't as accurate. I think the trick is that we need to be able to get to that point faster and allow the equipment to speak for itself. So what I would suggest is using more examples. Maybe even bringing in the other equipment, or if you found that they bought from the competitor, I think you need to go in and say, well, you know what's important to you? I know that you're getting this equipment. It's a lower cost, and I can appreciate the ability to save money, but let's talk about what's really important. So the questions that you ask then need to revolve around quality and longevity and accuracy. And if the equipment isn't as accurate as they need it to be, if it's not measuring the right outputs to the right accuracy, you should be able to compare your equipment to theirs, and then the equipment badmouths itself. You don't have to say anything about it. So see if you can get them into competitive situations where you're willing to put yours on the line in a direct competition with theirs whenever you're in those competitive selling, and let the equipment speak for itself. Scott, how about you?
Yeah. That's a good answer. I think we need to look at the perspective that the prospect has when it comes to making a purchase and really identifying the difference between price and cost. The difference is value. I think a great question to ask these prospects is, well, that's an interesting approach. I'm kind of curious, how much have you budgeted for parts? What? Well, if the machine goes down, you're going to have to buy parts. Well, it's under warranty. Oh, it's under warranty. Well, it's probably a good reason that they're offering a warranty. Could they give you an idea on how responsive they're going to be on the warranty? And I'm curious, when the machine is down, what kind of impact does that have on the manufacturing line? Does everybody go home? Do you pay them anyway? Do you not have a lack of output when it comes to manufacturing something and people are still getting paid? And these are all things that we need to consider when it comes to making an important decision like this. Is what is the impact if things don't work? And that's really the true cost, is the impact when a solution doesn't provide what it is supposed to do. The price is what happens when you pay, when you buy it. The cost is what happens if you buy it. And if you buy the wrong one, you experience a higher cost. So it actually costs companies more when they buy substandard equipment. And I'm not saying that that's the case here, but in looking at some of the different features of the machine, and if you were to do a comparison, I think you're going to find a difference between the two of them. I'm not saying bad things about our competition at all. It's just that we're different, and sometimes different is better. That would be my approach to the situation.
Yeah, I like that, to challenge them as to what is really important to them. And I do think, if you work it and you find out the only thing that's that's of value to this particular customer is price, they're probably not your customer.
Yeah.
They're probably a price sensitive customer, and they don't look at the long-term cost of something. They only look at the initial price. So if you can't get them to look at the long-term cost and they just want to go for the cheapest competitor, then they're going to pay later for it. And what you do is you keep the door open, always talking good, keep the door open. So when the costs have gotten too high for them, they'll come back to you. But in the short run,
right,
a low-cost competitor coming in the market can hurt you. I remember the story about the guy who had a nice barbershop. He had a nice business going, and a cost cutter type business came in next door selling $10 haircuts. And they stole all of his business, and he was really worried. He got a marketing guy to come in, and they did one thing. He put a sign out front saying, "I fix $10 haircuts," and his business started to come back. And so you may have to fix $10 haircuts and show them that quality is something that they really want in the long run. So
that's a great story, Bill. I think I heard that back in the late 90s too. It was such a great approach. I go, God, that's a great approach. I just love that story. So as soon as you started with it, I knew where you were going. It's amazing what's inside of our experience within our head. So what's my next one here? I got with Karen from Delaware.
All right.
She says, I ended up in client services because I couldn't find work in the degree. And I guess it's okay. Well, all right. If that's okay, that's okay. We market testing services to medical clinics and hospitals. Our services are really good, but most of the people that I talk with just don't seem to get it when I tell them about the things that we do and what we can do for them. I have really good presentations, but I'm not convincing anybody to be able to sign up and look at them and watch them. What should I do to get them to use our services? So this is kind of an interesting approach, and I'm kind of curious, what does she really want to do? Because if she's in a position where she's not really happy doing what she's doing, she's kind of settling for that career, that's definitely going to have an impact on her actions, her attitude, her tone, and her demeanor. So that's going to have an impact. And sometimes prospects notice that as soon as they start listening to somebody on the phone going, I don't think this is going to get any better than it is right now. And if we do it, I don't think it's going to end very well. So they just decide not to do it at all. But in that process, she can still learn some sales techniques when it comes to qualifying people, asking them questions that get them engaged to create curiosity and interest. Well, they do have them on the phone so that they're able to at least commit to a minor allocation of time, maybe just 15 minutes. And then once they look at the 15-minute presentation, hopefully it's going to create enough interest and curiosity at that point where they can continue the conversation, Bill. So just based on the information I have, Bill, that's how I would respond to it. What do you think?
I think that Karen goes to great lengths to not be in sales.
Oh, yeah.
She's in client services. She markets test equipment, and she convinces people, and she gives presentations.
Yeah.
So I don't think she could learn to sell because she doesn't want to ever be confused with somebody who's selling something. And she's marketing and client servicing and presenting. And then she wants to convince them. And this sentence, our services are really good, but most of the people I talk to don't seem to get it. I think I don't think she likes her clients. They're not as smart as she is. And that's the feeling I get from this, from Karen. And I did have I didn't have a conversation, but I did challenge her in the same way you're talking about. Do you really want to be in sales? Because it looks like you're bending over backwards to not tell anybody you're selling anything.
Oh, right.
And so you need to realize, are you settling for something? I don't know what your degree field was that was so great, but maybe that's where you need to be because you find that to be the most important thing. And then I think treating your customers as if they don't get it and they need to be convinced of something. I think that what should I do to get them to use our services? It's
Right.
not, it's like strong arming and selling. And it's kind of, she's got this image of what selling is, and that's what she's trying to do, but she won't call it that. So,
right. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting approach.
so it's an attitude issue, I think, here that we have from Karen. And I did change that name. So,
okay. Good.
All right. We did Alan from Bowling Green. Marcy from Fresno. Marcy says, I sell to schools, and so we deal with a lot of RFPs and competitive sales situations. We are usually priced in the middle of the pack, and I think we provide a better ROI than most of our competition. My problem is I don't seem to be winning enough deals. We usually end up in second place, and that won't pay the bills. Any advice would be appreciated. Well, I'm not sure we have enough information, so I think we're going to do some wagging here a little bit. But one thing is we're doing a lot of RFPs. Are we choosing the RFPs that we can win? Or are we taking them all? So I think you need to carefully read an RFP and see if you can figure out who wrote it. Did one of your competitors write it? Does it align itself with what you do well? Or does it align itself almost exclusively with what your competitors do well? If you can't change that RFP to open it up, if you can't get in and talk to the people who design the RFP and get some changes done that are going to be a little bit more open to competition, you may have to make a decision not to go after so many RFPs. I can't remember what book it was, Scott, whether it was a Challenger sale. No, it was
Let's Get Win or Let's Not Play.
Yeah, Let's Win. And he went in and started looking at the RFPs, and he knocked it down from 100 to 5. Right. And they started winning them, and they quit wasting money. So I think that's a good idea. I think also, are you getting to talk to anybody? So many people just answer RFPs, and they never go and talk to the end users. They never talk to the people who want the product or service and find out what their real needs are and help develop a need for what you and your organization are good at. You're priced in the middle of the pack. I don't think it's a pricing issue. And you say you provide a better ROI. How can you convince people of that? Well, you can't do it on paper with an RFP. You've got to have the conversation with them. And then I think when they let you have a conversation, then your chances of being competitive in that RFP go up a little bit. So those would be the things I'd say. Don't just answer every RFP, find the right ones, and then see if you can help design them a little bit better.
Yeah. And that's good advice. And looking at RFPs, are you going out and talking with people, and then all of a sudden you're creating enough interest or curiosity where they want to look at other options? Or are you getting invites to participate in RFPs where somebody else is initiating it and you're responding to it? And I think it's really important to be able to have a strategy that you are going to target and market to your strengths in the marketplace, where your value proposition is most receptive to your customers and their prospects and your clients that want to pay you for it. So I would get into crafting the RFP to play to your strengths, to be able to identify some of the things that are not in an RFP that are important when making a decision that would obviously align with your strengths, and then deliver more value in the RFP, being more consultative when it comes to delivering that presentation, the RFP, to the decision-making parties. And sometimes you get a chance to talk with them, and sometimes you don't. You have to be as persistent as possible to be able to get in front of the people that are making the decision, so that you can deliver the best presentation possible. So that would be my advice. Or cut the price. Hey,
cut the price.
Sell more. You cutting the price. No, I'm not. I was
glad that Marcy didn't mention that. If we just got our price lower, right? Because I think she sees the ROI, but they're not connecting that ROI to the people who are making the buying decision.
Yeah, I always, every time a salesperson gets into a conversation, they're selling something to someone. Sometimes they're selling a benefit and a value to a customer or a prospect, or sometimes they're selling an excuse to management and leadership. And somebody's always buying it too. Either the customer's buying it or leadership's buying it. But
Karen's not selling. Karen in Delaware, she's client servicing and presenting and marketing. So she's not selling anything. So all right, what's your last one?
My last one is Dan from Detroit, and he says, I sell major equipment to cities, counties, golf courses, and lawn
he says
care.
Municipalities.
But I couldn't pronounce municipalities. I just skipped over it. I'll admit it too. That's the one thing that most people won't do. Is I will admit I could not think of how to pronounce municipalities.
There you go. I don't know. There was a word I couldn't pronounce the other day.
God, why do I make it so hard on myself?
All right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. No, you're absolutely right. He says, I have a limited territory, and so I have about 125 locations that I call, and I see the same people all the time, and they know me. Some of them are regular purchasers of equipments and parts, and some of them just buy parts, and some of them don't buy anything, but they still talk to me. My question is, what can I talk about to these people that I visit about 8 times a year? And I can't just say, how's it going? Because it seems like I'm not getting into the area that I need to talk about, and it just seems to be getting a little stale.
I'm going to interrupt because I think when I interrupted you before about municipalities. I don't know if everybody heard you say the municipalities, counties, golf courses, and lawn care. So it must be like lawn equipment. So
right.
I don't know if that matters or not, but
I think people are kind of put it together. But a lot of these salespeople, they like to stop by and touch base and just see what's new.
How's it going?
What can we do for you? What can we put an order in for? What do you need? And
they'll get the little parts and stuff from that.
And these people that are at the golf courses are like, could you bring me something that is useful to me that would help me in my job? Be that I love Anthony Anarino's term, trusted advisor. I mean, he talks about that in the book, Eat Their Lunch. And when you come to the conversation, the same thing in the Challenger sale, come to think of it, is that you don't go to a CEO and say, hey, what's keeping you up at night? You go to a CEO and say, here's what should be keeping you up at night. Here are the trends and some of the shifts in the marketplace. And I want to be able to come to you and share with you some of the things that we're seeing in the business and how we're evolving our product or service, make your job easier. John Deere was actually a person that committed to farmers to make their job easier. And when John Deere finally got down to the foundation of the company in the later years when they were struggling, they got right back to the principle of, I'm here to make your job easier. And that's what they concentrated on. So I digress a little bit.
No, I think you're right on. You need to be bringing value. And the nice thing is you can bring the same value. Well, what's going on in lawn care trends? What's going on with the type of grass you should grow? What's going on with chemicals and herbicides and all the stuff? What's allowed to be put on? And did the government change any laws about what you can use? And how's that going to affect your golf course or your park lawn? And you're the expert in these areas, and you should be bringing some of that value. You should know when their birthdays are, when their anniversaries are, who their kids are. Bring them a hat once in a while. Bring them a little bit of tchotchke for the cruise. Bring them lunch. Bring them, do different things. But mix it up. And for those good customers, what are you doing for them long term? How are you building them up? How are you finding new ways for them? So don't just come in hat in hand. As Scott said, how's it going? You need anything new? You'll get little orders out of that, but you're not going to get the next fleet of whatever equipment you're selling. Right. And they're going to buy it by the fleet, and they're going to buy it from somebody, and that somebody's going to be offering them value and bringing that value to them all the time, and bringing equipment for them to try out, and bringing whatever it is that you can do, a new part, a new way of doing something, a new idea. You've got people in your organization that are inventing things all the time. You're supposed to be presenting them to your client. So be new. I call it be a resource. Be a resource to that customer, not just an aggravation where they go, oh, God, Bill's here again. Yeah. There's a half hour of wasted time.
I'll never get that time back.
All right. Well, that's all the questions that we have for today. Good questions. We love to get them. So send them in to us through the website, winningatselling.com. You can go, there's a request page. You can send in a question. You can say hello. You can sign up for the book list, any of those things.
Sounds great. Our golden nugget today is very brief and very short. Discipline Equals Freedom by Jocko Willink. He's the author of Extreme Ownership. And I think some of our listeners have probably seen that book or purchased it.
I have not.
I've seen Jocko on the news. I've seen him on a different news channels that I've looked at. He's obviously from the military. I think he was a Marine.
I have seen him. That name's familiar. He's like a ex special forces or something.
Yeah, like Navy SEAL. I think
got muscles on top of his muscles.
Yeah. And what really made me think of him and his book is I watched the Army Navy football game this last weekend. And I'm not a big sports fan. So I happened to turn my TV on at the time and they were just finishing the game. And it was kind of burn up the clock at the end of the game and Navy ended up winning. But here's what I found most impressive, almost emotional, to be able to watch all of the Navy soldiers that were there waited for Army to sing their song at the end of the game. And everybody that was in the Army was singing. Cameras were looking, all of the Army fans that were in the stands and players that were on the field, and every Army soldier was singing and everybody else was silent. Then the Navy got to sing and everybody was singing from the Navy and everybody in the Army was silent. There was so much respect for the other team, and you could see this discipline and the commitment to respect. And when we think of discipline equals freedom, when I saw that quote from Jocko, I go, that's exactly it. And I so wish that more salespeople had discipline, had commitment, and really focused on accomplishing what their goals are. If you say you're going to do it, go out and do it, and don't stop until you complete it.
All right.
So it was very emotional.
Excellent. Excellent. Nice quote. So for everything we've talked about today, notes, contacts, links, go to winningatselling.com. All that information will be there. Don't forget to enter our book giveaways for Sales Jiu-Jitsu by Elliot Bayev and Daniel Moskowitz. 2 books each week. Go to winningatselling.com and just ask us a question, say hello, or just say, I want to be put in the book drawing. I've had a couple of those. So get those in early and you'll have more chances to win because we'll keep your name in the pot for every time we draw out.
So next week, we're going to get back to the book, Sales Jiu-Jitsu, Part 2, Fighting, Chapter 1, Connection. And our guest will be Mario McCracken.
Go out and get better, one skill at a time.
Joyful selling.